So The Last of Us Season 2 is on its 5th episode, and a lot of people are not happy.
So we're all having a baby. Holy sh**. I'm gonna be a dad.
Just to set up my history with The Last of Us, I played the first game and loved it, mostly the story. For me, that was the main appeal. The gameplay was just serviceable, but still it's one of my favorite story-focused games. Then when I heard they were making a second, of course I was pumped, but then that was immediately deflated after the leaks about the story. And I, like many, was turned off at what they did to Joel, and the overall direction they were intending to take the game. So I didn't buy the game and just watched others' playthroughs. And I wasn't impressed, both with the story and the gameplay. The gameplay didn't seem like it was much of a step up from the first. And yes, the game looked graphically impressive, but that wasn't the main appeal of the first game. Again, it was an incredibly compelling story. The story of a lost man who finds his will to live by finding a surrogate daughter in the midst of the post-apocalypse. And I know there are plenty of fans of the second game, and if that's your cup of tea, good for you. Me, it seemed like Neil really wanted to hammer home, or club home the whole cycle of violence theme. However, in doing so, created maybe one of the most divisive games of all time. And for me, the lesson wasn't about how violence leads to more violence, but based on the story and how it was told, and the lessons I learned based off that story. The takeaway for me was not to leave any survivors. I mean, if Joel did that to the Fireflies in the first game, he would have got away scot-free, and the same with Abby. If she would have just killed Ellie, she would have got away. Anyway, with that being such a turnoff, I wasn't thrilled about the HBO show's first season, and even when the word of mouth was good, I really wasn't interested in watching it. But eventually I did, and I thought it was fine. Maybe if it was my first experience with the story, I would have loved it, but compared to the game, it just felt like a watered down version. Joel wasn't the badass he was in the game, which I understand it's far easier in the game to kill 100 people without you thinking he's a psycho than if he did it in a show. But even so, I still prefer the more stoic Joel, which leads us to Ellie. So
regret this decision.
Look, I could beat a dead horse, but she was miscast. I know she has her defenders, especially for the first season. Like many think that while she wasn't a great choice, she didn't sink the show. But I'm sorry, but she just isn't Ellie for me. Not only because she didn't look like her, but she didn't have the same spirit and personality. Ellie in the show feels way more obnoxious compared to Ashley Johnson's performance. And I also think they didn't give nearly the time they should have to develop Joel and Ellie's relationship. They did just enough to sell it, but compared to the game, it's not even close. And I know the game had much more time, but I think they could have spent their time better than they did. Also, there wasn't as much infected versus human action as I would have liked, and I could go into more detail about the differences between the game and the show, but bottom line, I thought it was good, not great. I wouldn't call it a pale imitation, but it's more like a poor man's version of the game. So when the second season was approaching, I definitely wasn't excited at all. In fact, I was dreading it, but I might as well finish what I started. And even with my low opinion of the second game, the show makes it look much better in comparison, and I'm far from the only one. Even people I thought would like it, like people on Reddit, are absolutely tearing it to shreds. And the main contention is Ellie. A lot of problems stem from Bella being cast, and while the first season she could be forgiven somewhat, the fact that 4 years has passed, and she's supposed to be 19, and Bella pretty much looks the same, it kind of forced the creator's hands. Because there's no way someone like Abby, if she was faithfully cast, wouldn't completely break the show. Because the image of a bulked up Abby versus Bella Ramsey would shatter any reality the show is going for. So they had to cast an Abby that wouldn't break the immersion, with an actor that would actually make a better Ellie than Bella, which could have worked, both in the first season, or because 4 years had passed and people would have bought a recast, or going with a dream choice like Kaylee Spaney. And I know there are people that, instead of contending with this opinion, are trying to say that people that don't like Bella's casting are saying that we're trying to sexualize Ellie, which is blatantly and clearly a cope to the fact that she just isn't cutting the mustard, and doesn't match the look from the game, and the show is hurting because of it. And also Dina's chemistry with Ellie, it just isn't there, at least not for me. And I know that's incredibly subjective, but anyway, I have to ask, why does Hollywood do this? For me, casting and being faithful to the source material, I don't understand the rationale of not giving the people what they want. That should be the easiest part. Cast the person that most embodies the character. Why is it that hard? And it doesn't just go for live action. At least with live action, maybe you could say they weren't the perfect choice, but the person was a better actor. actor. But for animation, stuff like the new Shrek.
Ew, Dad!
Ooh, mommy like.
Who's making this stuff?
Not me!
Oh my god, corny, lame, boo, tomato, 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 I'm throwing tomatoes.
Same with the new Predator. Also, do you remember the first Sonic movie design?
SFPD!
Meow?
That's gonna kill me! That's real! That lives with us on Earth! I thought I was gonna get eaten!
Again, I don't get why the safe choice is so hard for so many people. Making a movie is hard. Why shoot yourself in the foot on one of the easiest parts, since it's based off something else? So just get as close as possible to it. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. But what do you think?